Alright, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Tokenicer and I'm here to bring you guys in-depth news, analysis, and insights from the digital asset space, along with covering the progressive tokenization of the world. So I'm bringing you guys once again another Terramoon exclusive from my weekly show on there, Tea Time with Token. So in this week's episode of Tea Time, we had another special guest join us for another in-depth discussion on all things crypto, blockchain, DLT, life, ambitions, and all that good stuff. So over these past few months, JustJeremiahCrypto has been creating amazing threads, breaking down a ton of utility networks that we talk about on here, such as XRP, Quant, Constellation, Alliance Block, Hedera Hashgraph, and a whole bunch more at an almost unreal level of consistency. So if you guys like what you hear, be sure to check out Jeremiah's Twitter for his threads and knowledge at JustJeremiahCrypto. And of course, that'll be linked right down below. And as always, if you guys do enjoy what you heard from this interview, along with the previous shows that are on my YouTube, be sure to join Terramoon Ventures for more weekly shows just like this and everything else we bring to the table with my discount code Tokenice for 25% off. That's TOKENICE, and as always, that'll be linked right down in the description below. And as usual, before we start, I just got to remind everyone that nothing you hear from either me or my guests is any form of financial or investment advice. But now that we got that out of the way, let's get right into it. Alright, so yeah, as you guys can see, in today's episode, we're doing things a little different. We are actually bringing on a special guest today. So today we've got on JustJeremiahCrypto. He's done a lot of really valuable threads on a bunch of utility projects, from Quant to XRP, Constellation, Hedera Hashgraph, etc. And as you guys can see, his Twitter is plugged right over here. If you guys haven't checked that yet, I highly suggest you guys check it out. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jeremiah.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I do got to say, thank you for being patient with me as I'm an amateur with the Discord. I got like 100 Discords when the XRP trust line situation happened. And when I was getting 1,000 notifications a day, I had to kind of get away from Discord. So thank you for being patient with me and thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. So just to get started, do you want to just kind of go over a little background about who you are yourself and kind of just how you got into the crypto space?
Yeah, for sure. So just do a quick timeline of events of my life. I will say in college, I was going to school for mechanical engineering and I was going to minor in electrical engineering. With a couple of situations that occurred in my personal life and the wrath of college and drinking kind of took over, so I had to drop out. So, of course, my mind was always in the technical aspect of how things work, but I never pursued that career like I wanted to. So after that, I was working actually at Red Lobster. I worked from server all the way up to manager, supervisor, and then I was help training other supervisors as well. That got a little hectic when my now fiance got pregnant with twins. So I had to add on COVID to that situation. In the restaurant industry and COVID, they were not a good match. So after a lot of mental strain, I got out of that industry and jumped into logistics. So now I work at a warehouse where I kind of coordinate everything and, fill up the trucks with supplies, and not to give too much away, but it's for a big grocery stores around the United States. So doing this job, the pay is pretty okay. The benefits are really good for my family, but my mind doesn't get stimulated like I want it to. So that's kind of where I started digging into crypto. So, and how that path kind of started was just some random guy that worked there for a month just came up to me and said, "Hey dude, you ever heard of XRP?" And I was like, "No." And this was 2 days after the SEC sued Ripple. He's like, "Bro, this is the one coin to rule them all. This is going to be the world reserve currency. You got to get into this right now. The price dropped." So I dug into it and, checked out some YouTube videos, and that was my beginning path of cryptocurrency.
That's awesome, man. And I find it kind of hilarious because the way I got into crypto, I was also working in a shipping and logistics warehouse, and it was also someone there who told me, like, "Hey, have you ever heard about Bitcoin? It's the new digital gold."
Precisely.
Yeah. So it seems like you've come quite a long way since then, right? You've dug up on XRP, and I'm sure you've really jumped down that rabbit hole, but you're also talking about a ton of other projects now, which I have a ton of respect for. Anyone who's an anti-maximalist, and I completely put you in that category because we see you talking about DAG, Quant, HBAR, and then even some other projects that are being built on Constellation at the moment. So out of your, I guess, time in researching this space, what has really stood out to you, and what kind of keeps you going to keep researching?
Yeah, so I would say just the concept of the distributed ledger technology, because I don't come from a big technical background. And for me, it's like you have the internet or you don't have the internet. Like, I don't know too much about the backgrounds of things. So digging into these projects and seeing how that real utility can help everyday life, I think was a big shocker for me, considering the fact if you looked at all the news headlines and how they kind of portray just cryptocurrencies in general, and there needs to be like an awakening, like, hello, this is the future, even in not just the currency as a coin, but the actual technology. I mean, just look at Constellation and Quant. Those two together, like, that's above cryptocurrency. That's just, that kind of technology is going to be massive. And then I would say what keeps me going is definitely the feedback I get and the fact that I'm helping people, because I've been in crypto, of course, since the end of 2020, like I stated before, but I never had like a guidance. I was a XRP maxi for a good 6 months, and then watching, Quant at $7, Cardano at 2 cents, just seeing these other coins take off, I backed off of the XRP train, and that's kind of what helped me dig into all these other projects. So I would say helping people out that way and saying, hey, there's not just this coin, but there's this, this, and this. Follow whatever resonates best with you. Don't just dig into one coin. I mean, you can, and by all means you can, but open your eyes, guys.
For sure. I love that, because when you become the second you decide to become a maxi, you kind of lock yourself to just potentially how much you can really learn. And just to add to your point of really seeing how much this technology can do, like, I think people are really starting to realize that beyond just currency and money, or even financial services in general, crypto, blockchain, and DLT can just do so much more, right?
Exactly. And then, I mean, you add in the data aspect of it, and then the legacy to the future systems, and you're gold.
Exactly. It's pretty much like a new system that's being built. It's beyond just finance now, but it's data, it's entertainment. I mean, there's a lot of even logistics stuff that's on there now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess this is a good transition into our next section, which we're going to talk about some of your favorite discoveries and things you've learned since kind of researching the space. So maybe just some projects that really stuck out to you, or some applications that really resonated with you personally.
Yeah, for sure. So I think another big shocker for me was the concept of value. Like, what is value? You think of that as like fiat, you think of that as US dollars, like that is the ultimate value of things. But whenever you really dig into what value is and how that's changed in our society over, the last probably thousands of years, from bartering all the way to gold backed, all the way to just pieces of paper, I think cryptocurrency is really bringing back the concept of bartering and seeing what ecosystems you want to start funneling into. So I think the concept of value is another huge thing that I learned doing all this. But kind of like some projects, like I said, I loved XRP, but not to create any haters, it's not really even a top 5 coin for me anymore. I think what Ripple's doing is phenomenal, and their partnerships are out of this world, and I do hold a lot of it. But I just think these other technologies that are up and coming are kind of what I put more attention into. I would say my top 3 projects would be Algorand, XDC, and Quant. So Quant, as you know, and I've learned actually a lot from Quant, it's the fact that it just connects everything. And there's a tweet that you made that just sticks in my mind every single day, and I don't know why, and I can't get it out, but it just lives there rent free. And it's your tweet when you said, how Quant isn't a blockchain, but it connects the blockchains, and how DAG, I think you said, doesn't store data, but it handles the data or something like that.
It validates it in transit. Yeah, exactly.
Precisely. And that just sticks in my head every day. I don't know why. I think it's just because it's so ingenious to think about things like that. So yeah, I do love Quant, and I think the capabilities haven't even been touched on Quant whenever you consider the fact that it's multi-ledger application, multi-ledger systems, and the fact that they can pretty much Frankenstein their own coins and their own blockchains. And I think that's really, really cool. I do love Algorand because it's just that ISO token that no one really talks about besides IOTA. And Algorand has 500 partnerships. They have over 400 businesses or products being built on their platform. They're in the CBDC conversation, and they're growing at a really rapid rate. They're about to do a upgrade that gives them 6,000 TPS, a 4-second finality. And I believe at the end of the year, they're aiming for 10,000 TPS. And I love the fact that they're growing. And if you're not growing and adapting, especially in these times, kind of like how Ethereum is doing, then you're going to get kind of pushed back, continue being pushed back. So I think Algorand is just one of those picks that I definitely want to be a part of because it keeps on growing. Then we talked about Quant, and then I would say XDC is my last one. XDC also is adapting and growing. Their XRC20 tokens are booming. If you even throw in the Trada token, which is kind of put an interesting twist on things, and their documentations, kind of like how Utility Theory was talking about on your last tea time. I thought that was really great. Everything he broke down with that. Very smart guy. Love him. And then I would say after those three, and I'm thinking more from a ROI perspective with those three. But if you want to talk about actual technology, then I would bring in Hedera and Constellation. I think Constellation has the best technology in our space, or at least in the top 99.99%, along with Quant. I think Constellation is going to blow up as well. To me, it's more of a long-term kind of hold. So that's why I don't express much about it, but I love that technology. And it did take me a while to kind of grasp my head around what it was. And then Hedera, of course, I call it the corporate coin. It has its governing council, which are all guiding and pushing it forward. And I think as soon as those businesses start interoperating a lot more of the DLT, I think the token will also blow up as well.
For sure. I think those are all really good picks, and I completely agree on that Algorand pick. I think it's a very slept on ISO coin. And aside from just being ISO, I think it's a very powerful ecosystem. Like, they've got a lot of real industry adoption on there. And from my experience just using the application, like, I use Algorand to move stable coins probably every day, and I think it's one of the cleanest experiences you can have in terms of layer ones on the market at the moment.
Exactly. And that's, and we can even throw in the FIFA partnership, which is going to be massive. And I believe they're going to start pushing the utility aspect of Algorand whenever FIFA comes around, or the World Cup, I should say, which could make things interesting.
That would be really massive, yeah. And I mean, there's probably, I don't know the numbers, but I want to say hundreds of millions of people watching FIFA every 4 years when the tournament's on, right?
The last finals, I believe, was in 2018 with Croatia and France, and correct me if I'm wrong on that. I believe they had an attendance of 1.2 billion people.
Wow. Yeah, so I guess Algorand's gonna have that kind of exposure to it, and well, I think that's one of the better layer ones to get that kind of public exposure.
It's a very consistent coin, and that's what I like about it.
I think that's a really good way to put it. Yeah,
it's not like this top tier kind of coin, but it's very consistent. The partnerships are growing on it, and I think that's why people are choosing to build on it.
For sure, yeah, and I think even beyond the partnerships, Algorand being from MIT and having all these academia connections, I think are going to be really powerful for it in terms of adoption for the future generations.
Precisely, and I think you're the one who said there might be a weird connection between Silvio Macaulay and Quant and MIT and FedNow and that can be a rabbit hole in its own.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think MIT is really doing wonderful things in terms of developing this space, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, but just on a different topic now, I'm kind of curious about what really got you to start really pushing out all this fundamental analysis content, and really just how you kind of make time for all of this.
Yeah, exactly. So, as I said before, I work in a logistics warehouse where I have a lot of time on my hands. And the way my mind works is I need to be like stimulated. Like I need to be thinking about this or learning that. And instead of sitting here listening to music like half the people do, I, would listen to cryptocurrency information. I would listen to geopolitics. I would listen to finance. And then after about a year and a half of just accumulating, I actually ended up joining Bank DAO, where we are trying to help the normal person build on Web3. But to do that, you have to work out for 8 weeks on a very strict schedule. Our ideology is if you are dedicated enough to work out and you're dedicated enough to switch your diet around and sweat for what you want, we believe investing in people over ideas. Because if you invest in people and you find like the really, really hardworking people, the guys who put blood, sweat, and tears into it, then you're somebody we want to invest in. And to do that, you have to work out. And then after you're done working out, we will pay you to work out, which will be paid out in XDC. So we're in the process of building that out right now. It'll go live next year. But that, after talking to, the co-founder there, his name is Johnny, very, very brilliant guy. He kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, you're either a producer or you're a consumer. You can consume all the information you want, but if you're not doing anything about it, then you're stuck in the old ways. We're entering this new system where everybody needs to start creating. We're entering this Web3 kind of situation where you need to monetize all your information, and monetize doesn't necessarily even mean like get paid in money, but, in information and data. So that kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, I'm a wealth of knowledge just sitting here doing nothing. So I started kind of breaking things down. And of course, the first big project I was kind of breaking down was WadsPay. Now that's a whole conversation in its own, but I liked it because it had that utility aspect, the backing behind it. But no one is talking about it as much as, XRP and Quant and all these other coins. So I took advantage of it and, started doing my deep dives and started, kind of using it as a sandbox, if you will, and just kind of started experimenting and, writing theories that I thought, doing deep dives on all the executive members and kind of putting all that information out. So after I started getting really good feedback off that, it kind of jump-started me and the fact that people were really valuing the content that I was putting out. And I think that kind of fueled the fire under me. So that's when I started doing, okay, if I can do Quant and I can do one of these XRC20s, then why can't I deep dive into XRP and HBAR and all these other big utility projects? And I think that helped me understand these projects a lot more as well. Because when I started doing a lot more deep dives, I found out things that I never would have thought, or things that were never put together. And I think that really fueled me and kind of expanded my knowledge on the subjects.
Yeah, I completely agree to that point. How like when you really become the teacher and you're putting the content out there, you kind of force yourself to learn that much more, because one, you don't want to be the guy who's spreading misinformation out there, but two, it really makes you focus down and bring what you learned in the most presentable manner possible.
Exactly. And, that's where you get the best teachings, in my opinion, is teaching other people the subjects.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with that. All right. But, aside from just creating content, I'm curious to see what else Jeremiah does. What do you do outside of just the crypto ecosystem and writing threads? And of course, beyond logistics.
Yeah. Yeah. So my fiance, she's a nurse, so she works overnights. So we still are able to get our schedules together and have weekends open for each other. And we do have 2-year-old twins, and we're expecting another one. So for us, it's really important to build a family dynamic and to do everything together. So I live in Colorado, where there's mountains and hiking trails and parks and all this outdoor activity things. So we spend a lot of our time outdoors. We go to the little ponds around, we go to the parks, And, we really play with the kids and work with the kids because at the end of the day, building the family fundamentals is really important for us. So to answer your question a lot more directly, hanging out with my family and, teaching and growing my children as much as I possibly can.
Awesome. That sounds very wholesome. And I must say, it's pretty crazy that you have twins and you're still able to push content out at this volume.
Yeah. I've gotten a shoe thrown at me from my fiance once when she saw me, staring into my phone. She's like, "Hello, we're over here." I'm like, "Okay, you're right. I need to separate everything. It's all in moderation." So sometimes you just kind of, I'll probably say a little bit of your ego gets there. Then whenever you start putting out all this information and people are like, "Oh my God, give us more," and it kind of drives me to keep pushing out more. But at the same time, you got to find that moderation break where, crypto is crypto, real life is real life with your family, and you got to find that balance for sure.
Oh man, I completely relate to that statement. It's definitely like, you definitely feel like you have some, I don't want to say responsibilities on your shoulder, but it's like you have people waiting for your content and stuff, and you're like, damn, I really got to get this done. And then you kind of realize like, maybe I should enjoy some real life time with my family and friends or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, and as I say, being active in crypto like how we are, it's really a full-time job in its own.
It's difficult, and I will say screenshots have overtaken photos of my kids in my phone. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Oh man, yeah, I've got, I think, a couple too many banking document screenshots on my phone personally. Yeah, that's just kind of what happens once you start digging in this space, though. Hey.
Exactly, and the fact that I am helping people kind of helps fuel the fire under me. And helping them with their family, and just kind of breaking down the fact that cryptocurrency is one thing and you can get rich off of it, but what's more important is the freedom that comes with that. And if you aren't learning that now, if you become rich is the worst time to try to learn that, or you're going to get your selfishness and money and all those egotistical things kind of take over.
Oh, absolutely. And I think just beyond the riches and everything, something I've really learned over this past year of creating content is just enjoying the journey and enjoying and savoring the people you meet along the way there.
Exactly. And, I talked about it before. If crypto went to zero and we lost all your money, or if I lost all my money, I would still be happy with the route that we took. I feel like it was fun. At the end of the day, you do meet a lot of people. You do get to do different things. You can get to stretch your brain out a little bit more. You have some really educational conversations with some of the people in this space where, you would never put two and two together or even break down the things that you still can't understand, but somebody else does. And hearing their perspective on it also helps out a lot.
Absolutely. Just hearing other people's perspectives, the way other people see the world, and then how other people just kind of think. It's really interesting, the people you kind of meet in here, and you get to realize just how big, but at the same time small, this world really is.
Exactly. And you're picking out people from all around the world, which I think that concept blows my mind the most, because I do organize a lot of these AMAs and I do organize a lot of these conversations. And, getting on the same page with somebody that's in Dubai or London or Germany, like I just did for OBS, it's so interesting at the fact that these people were all have the same mindset, but we're all around the world, and it's just like a selective group of people.
For sure, yeah. I think it's really cool, kind of the whole community aspect of this, having very like-minded people within your community, even though they're around the world, and there's a good chance you'll never meet them in person or anything, but there's a lot of people I've met just on crypto Twitter or even around here on our Terramoon Discord where we really feel like family, I'd say.
I mean, everyone always says it. It's the fact that these people we talk to now are closer than our friends in real life, because our minds are always working kind of in parallel with each other. And we understand that there's more to this than meets the eye. Like, we understand that the political system or the financial system, like, there's something completely wrong there. And our eyes are focused on these different things, and we're always looking at what's better for us and our legacies. And I think that creates a different kind of bond than somebody you go out and get drinks with and talk about sports or whatnot.
100%, man. There definitely feels like there's an additional layer of, I don't think passion's the right word, but more so, I don't even want to use intellectual, because I'm not trying to put the other side of it down, but there feels like there's more to each of these conversations. Like, you're getting a lot more value out of these.
Exactly. That's exactly it right there.
Yeah, value. And something you mentioned was about the Health Bank DAO. I actually wasn't sure exactly what the initiative of that was. I found that a very, very interesting concept, how you guys are basically saying, if you want us to kind of invest in your Web3 startup or something, you need to show us the dedication. You need to show us that you're willing to put in the blood, sweat, and tears, and you're willing to work for it and go through the pain.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I do think Johnny, because he's the one who created this idea, he's the gym rat, if you will. And he found the difference between the people that wanted it and that people that didn't want it. As somebody like me who has been a supervisor and I've hired probably 50 to 100 people, there was always that one thing where you couldn't really figure out if somebody was just talking about it or if they were willing to do it. And I think this really breaks that line. And I've actually done the workouts. I met him a year and a half ago and I did the first beta test, working out for 8 weeks. And I will say it's not easy, but it really separates the people that want it and don't want it. And I think that's one of the most ingenious things.
For sure. And just out of curiosity, how would you check whether these people have actually done the workouts? Do they have to like log and record it?
Yeah. So of course we're building different dApps and all these other things. We're building on Zenfin right now. And at the end of the day, you do have an accountability coach who does contact you about once a week to kind of touch bases. But to be honest, there is also a little bit of trust there. So if you want to sit there and say that you're doing these things that you're not, whenever you see the before and after picture, it won't look the same as everybody else's. So, there's a fine line of trust and a fine line of, can this system be manipulated in a certain sense? Yes. But whenever you put that trust in people's hands, there's almost like a guilt trip that goes into your mind, unless you're just kind of like unless you're really manipulative. I would say there's always that guilt. Because like I even went through that, is the fact that I sat here and I'm like, man, I didn't work out today, but if I marked it, I'll have a perfect week. But it's like, I feel guilty for doing that for somebody that's paying me to work out. And I think that guilt trip right there is kind of what is the fine line between that. But to answer your question more directly, there is no perfect way to do it. And I think further down the line, we do want to kind of tag in biometrics when it comes to kind of connecting your phone to the app and all this other things. But I think that's a lot further down the line, and we need a little bit more money as well.
No, for sure. And I think it's good to think big like that. Like, I think things like IoT and biometrics would really blend in well with this initiative.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on again, talking about being an anti-maximalist, I'm kind of curious to hear exactly your kind of progress from transitioning from an XRP maximalist initially to kind of bridging to these other, I guess, applications and networks, and then just how you kind of still feel about XRP at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, what broke my maximalism was seeing, like I said, Cardano at 2 cents, seeing Doge at 3 or 4 decimals over, and seeing Quant at $5-7, and just kind of like, well, people are talking about them, but I would never use my XRP money for that. I would never do that. And then watching these coins do what they do, I sit there and it's like reflecting in the mirror, and it's like, okay, maybe I can branch out a little bit. And then slowly my XRP bag kind of got smaller and smaller and smaller because, I do still hold XRP for the fact of its actual utility here in the future, and I think whenever you get rid of the greed aspect, because people start to get really greedy and, and whenever you get greedy, it blinds you from what else is out there. And I think whenever you open up your mind, it kind of helps you learn a lot more, and it gets rid of those barriers of this is the one coin or this is the one way I'm going to get rich. You get rid of that greed aspect, and it opens your eyes to, whoa, there's a lot more out here. I think there's like 20,000 cryptocurrencies, And if they get rid of 95% of them, there's still like maybe 100, 200 that have really strong utility. And there's just coins out there that are just so mind-blowing. Like Energy Web token is mind-blowing. Alliance Block is mind-blowing. And there's just so much out there. And if you're willing to learn, then you're willing to grow. And as far as my thinking on XRP right now, I think it's a great coin. I think it's really good. People have insane price predictions. And if you even look at the political aspect of it, I don't think we will break 3 digits for a while. I hope it hits 2 digits here in the next year or two, considering the fact that, after the lawsuit happens, hopefully they get the clarity and they're the first regulated coin, and the banks can start using them. And I just don't think the banks are going to drop all that money in there for all these retail to just rug pull them. I don't know. I think for all day to talk about that.
I think a lot of people are definitely thinking for the worst and kind of finding whatever bad outcome they can really think of. I mean, we see a lot of, I guess, FUD on XRP around Twitter from people who probably haven't even read the white paper yet. But I completely agree on that statement, where I think if this lawsuit goes the way we're kind of expecting it, with XRP coming out on top, it could really set precedent for not just Ripple, but the entire industry as a whole, because we're seeing regulations kind of coming in place in other parts of the world. Like, we see what's happening in Singapore. They've already kind of established regulations. And then in EU, there's the whole MiCA bill going on. And I think the US is definitely still lagging behind a bit when it comes to having a strict regulatory bill. So I really think if Ripple does come out on top on this, it really opens up and sets clarity for kind of what can operate in the US. And I think that'll really start a boom within kind of the US economy and crypto as a whole.
100%. In the United States, they're so weird, because it's hard to believe that their toes haven't been in cryptocurrency. Like, I believe they're building in the background, or they're doing something in the background. They're just not talking about it out loud. I don't know. The United States, either that or they're really, really liking because they have that power control hungriness and they don't want to let go of anything. And they know the decentralization aspect of cryptocurrency and how that can really pull a lot from their power over the governance of DAOs and all these other organizations being built on the blockchain. But I do want to hold on. You said something that caught my attention. Oh, about the lawsuit. So I actually heard this theory, which I think is really interesting. It was by Johnny Crypto with a K, and he was saying that he doesn't think XRP will win the case. He thinks it will give too much power away from the SEC, and he thinks that the SEC is going to strike down and say, no, sorry, you guys can talk all the trash about us, but we're not going to let you pass. And then they're going to make XRP a security. But with XRP being a security, that opens up the branch to a lot of other things. And on a retail side, it's going to suck for a while, but that just branches XRP out of the United States and kind of opens up that regulatory framework for all these other coins to be securities or not, and just to kind of rip that band-aid off right away, which I think is kind of interesting.
That is a very interesting perspective, yeah. And I think a lot of people do forget that this is a global asset class like we've never seen before. And while the US does hold a very strong majority of the power in the world, I think hypothetically, even if, let's just say, XRP does get ruled as a security, it's still being seen as a currency and an asset that's actually being utilized in a bunch of other countries. Like, just look at Japan, right?
Which absolutely blows my mind. It blows my mind. And even the whole LCX situation blows my mind. But
yeah,
here we are.
that was a bit of a mess, yeah. The SEC definitely, I was personally kind of excited for Gary Gensler to come in as chairman of the SEC, seeing his experience at MIT with blockchain and distributed ledgers. But I guess the one part we hadn't really taken into account was his background as an ex-banker at Goldman.
Exactly. I was on that boat with you, man. I sat there and I watched, a couple of his courses. I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows exactly, and as soon as he got in, I even bought a lot more XRP because I was like, oh, he's about to smash this right away. He knows what's good for him. And then it literally backfired. And that just tells you, you need to open your eyes and what you call hopium. And sometimes you got to look at the facts more than, hoping that this situation happens.
For sure, yeah, there was definitely a bit of a confirmation bias on that end from us and I think many others.
I think we just wanted it so bad.
For sure, yeah, we're definitely getting a bit impatient, I think. But just on to the next topic now. I'm curious to hear what you're most excited for about DLT as, let's say, 5-10 years from now. What you can kind of see this space becoming and kind of how it gets used at scale. If it is at scale by then.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So the first thing that pops in my mind is, like I said, digging into quant and constellation. Whenever you see like the smart city aspect, and everything with sensors and satellites and robots and AI, how whenever you have unlimited data basically, and you have, I would almost say unlimited networks, if that's okay with quant, and you combine those technologies, you're literally creating robots that can think as fast as possible and can do all these other things. I think if we do adopt into those situations, I believe we will see a big boom in technology if they allow it. So them allowing it is the big bump we're dealing with right now. But as far as that far in the future, I do believe that blockchain is the next big technological boom. And I think it's giving the pathway to allow full transparency and full technology rising all the way to the top to where we should be with all these flying cars and things. I believe that a lot of these blockchains are building onto that as far as actual us making money and whatnot. I believe we will make money, but I don't think we're going to be as rich as people think we're going to be, because I think the concept of currency is going to be changing here in the next 20 years. We look at everything backed by the USD, but as a world reserve currency, I believe they're in a sharp decline, and what comes after that, I don't know. So I think the concept of currencies is going to change dramatically. And I think, like I talked about the value beforehand, I think a lot of values are going to be a lot different than what they are. And I believe things are going to be backed by tokens, and whatever that means, I'm not sure, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Love it. And I think I completely agree on quant and constellation just having a very robust and forward-thinking kind of idea with the whole idea of IoT and smart cities with their partnership. And it really made me think, like, when we see stuff in movies like flying cars, autonomous vehicles and stuff, we never really think of the underlying technology that really gets that stuff working. And when I saw Moby, which is this one consortium made of a bunch of different car manufacturers and big tech and blockchain projects, it really made me realize just how robust blockchain is. Like, with this technology, we really could hypothetically build out autonomous vehicles with other technology provided, of course.
Exactly. And, just because I'm fresh on the constellation research, as you know, it builds horizontal, and the TPS is unregistered. Like, it can go, I don't want to say infinite, but it can definitely go really, really, really fast. So when you're driving these cars and you're going to run into something, you need a fast response. You need your car to realize it's about to hit something, and having that kind of speed to go and register it to say, hey, car, you need to stop, I think is going to be massive, especially whenever we start getting a lot more aerial and, cars go a lot faster and other objects like that.
Absolutely. And like, while we're on the topic of constellation, I think IoT definitely plays a big part into that, because you're not going to need real-time information when you're driving cars, but you're going to need beyond real-time information, right? Like, if you look up and see you're driving into a pole, it's probably a bit too late to stop. The car's got to figure that out, like, I don't know, 5-6 seconds before.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I think.
And then just having that unlimited data of the world is great.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, have you seen any charts of basically how data grows over time? It's insanely exponential.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, especially the last, I would even say like the last 5 years, it's blown up, and that just opened up the doorway. Well, what's the next 5 years going to be, or the next 50 years?
Absolutely, because I think once the more data there is in the world, the more options to create more data you really have out there. So I think this trend's just going to continue until, I don't know, maybe one day we find another technology to utilize.
Exactly, and it's at that point it's endless. Like, what's the next frontier? Are we going to start tapping into like the energy of crystals or something?
Yeah, probably something to do with energy in space. That's what I'd imagine.
All the free energy and whatnot, which is an interesting subject to think about whenever you think about all these cryptocurrencies, especially the proof of works that are sucking in a lot of energy. And if you have unlimited energy, is that still a problem?
For sure, yeah, and that really makes you think of kind of like, I guess, the longer term future, like let's say 30, 40 years from now. Or maybe not even then, but how can this technology be applied in space? And we've kind of seen some examples of this already from some projects. I'll bring up Constellations, where they're working with Space ISAC, and one of their ideas is having nodes within satellites, because it makes perfect sense that kind of how they're placed in space to kind of have a node network up there, right?
Exactly, and I mean that's scalability, that's speed, that's security, that's all the above.
That's decentralization too.
Exactly.
All right, but we have been going on for about 45 minutes now, and I figured it'd be nice to wrap it up with some kind of off-topic questions that maybe are a bit easier on your mind, don't require as much thinking.
I can sit here and talk about this stuff all day.
All right, well, I think we definitely need to bring you on for a part 2, but how would you say about 5 quick wrap-up questions real quick?
Let's do it.
All right, so what would be your top 3 favorite foods?
Ooh, whoa. That's a curveball. So for sure, steak. Give me a nice grilled cooked ribeye with some mashed potatoes on the side.
Can't go wrong with that.
That'd probably be number 1. What's up?
I just said can't go wrong with that.
Exactly. Second, I worked at Red Lobster, so I'm a seafood fanatic. So give me some sort of like shellfish, kind of get like mussels or scallops, or even like a bake with all of them, little lobster tail and their shrimp. Give me that number 2. And number 3, I got to go to my roots, and my mom's homemade chicken enchiladas would be number 3.
Love it, man. All right. Second question. When the space really takes off and it becomes fully adopted, your bags are all packed and everything, where do you move to?
Whew. So I live in Colorado right now, and it gets a little cold. I'm not a fan of it. Well, I guess it gets a lot colder where you're at. maybe I'm complaining a little bit, but we're beach people, so we would live on the beach. Probably across the world. We like Thailand. Thailand's nice. I like the influence over there, but I would say anywhere on the beach, even if that means like Florida or California or Texas.
Great choice. And then if you got to meet and sit down for lunch with 2 other people in this blockchain space that you have, I guess, really learned and been inspired from, who would you pick?
I feel like, I don't know if I can keep up, but it would be so interesting to listen to Dr. Martin from Uphold. I forgot his last name. Dr. Martin from Uphold and Andre Casterman, and just let them go loose.
Oh yeah, that would be quite a roundtable between the 2 of them, hey? And they've actually previously hosted their own podcast and shows, right?
Yep, and they go live on Twitter every once in a while, but yeah, I think they do a monthly show together.
Yeah, I think the way Andre Casterman is kind of interacting with the community through Martin, I think is very good for the XDC community overall to see.
I would agree.
But back to these off-topic. Well, I guess this one's not quite as off-topic, but do you plan to expand your content out to other media platforms in the near future?
That's a great question. I did try to start YouTube like a year ago, but like I said, I'm not very savvy with working on computers and all the creativity aspect of it, you know, my research has expanded and maybe I can research a little bit better on it. I have kind of thought about doing a YouTube just so that I can read my threads off and kind of add a lot more inputs of what was going on in my mind while writing these. For right now, I don't have anything, but I might bridge onto YouTube. I'm in the process of building a Telegram just for a couple of people that I have always asking me questions because I love helping people out. So if I could just separate them from Twitter and put them in a Telegram and help them kind of guide them through this crypto space, which at the end of the day is something I really enjoy. And that's kind of like the aspect of why I keep doing what I do, is helping other people. So besides those, no. I should build a Discord is what it is. I'm an amateur with Discord.
Hey, it took me a while to get the ways around Discord, man. But anyways, final question. Do you want to give us a goal that you have in the near future? So let's say the next year or so, and then one maybe in further out. So next maybe 5 years or so.
I think I would just have to expand more on helping people, because like that at the borderline is what I like to do. So a year from now, I would like my own platform where I can onboard people really easy, help guide them through crypto and help them understand a lot of concepts that I understand, and kind of talk about these projects more on a one-to-one basis, and have my own platform where I could do that with a good group of people listening in and a good group of people understanding what I'm talking about. And in 5 years from now,
it's tough, eh?
That's a difficult question. I would assume a little bit more adoption has taken place. Man, that's a great question. It's something I should probably sit down and talk to my fiance about.
I guess, yeah, there's a lot of ways to answer this one, hey?
Yeah, I would say at the end of the day, you know, besides helping people, I'm very family oriented. So I would like that opportunity to, I don't want to say retire because I don't know if I could retire, just because I'm a busybody and I like to do things and I like to talk to people and I like to go do other things like that. But I would like probably break from the 9 to 5 and have, you know, helping people on the side with their own adventures with cryptocurrency, but definitely spend a lot more time with my family and do more things and probably travel with them so they can see the different cultures and understand there's more than just this little box in America that we're living in.
For sure, yeah. I think it's really cool how you tie everything back to your family, and I think that really says a lot about you.
They're important, man.
For sure, yeah. I love to hear that. And I think that's about all we have for questions that I have, at least. So while we still have some time, I'd like to open up the floor, and if anyone's got any questions, feel free to unmute your mic.